Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the public meeting for the proposed Dry Lake East Energy Center solar project. We're just going to give folks a few more minutes before we get started on our presentation. Thanks. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public meeting for the proposed Dry Lake East Energy Center solar project. Thank you all very much for joining. We're very appreciative of having a number of folks who have joined and are able to participate this evening. My name is Sarah Enser, and I'm the consultant for the BLM, and I'm going to be facilitating the meeting tonight. Tonight's public meeting will include an introduction by the Las Vegas Field Office Field Manager, Bruce Silito, followed by introductions of the participants from the BLM Southern Nevada District and SWCA, the third-party contractor who is facilitating tonight's session. After introductions, Laura Cobelt, BLM Project Manager, will present on the proposed Dry Lake East Energy Center solar project. She will provide a short overview of the BLM process and the environmental assessment and regional mitigation strategy developed for this project. Following the presentation, there will be a question and answer session facilitated by SWCA with responses from the BLM, and then we will open up the forum for public comment. Then we will close out for the evening. This meeting will be recorded and the video will be posted to the project information webpage at the address on the screen. We will also post that address in the chat. Now I'm going to turn it over to Bruce Silito, Las Vegas Field Manager, for a short introduction and an overview of our presenters and other participants for this evening's public meeting. Bruce.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public meeting for the Dry Lake East Energy Center solar project. My name is Bruce Silito. I'm the field manager for the BLM Las Vegas Field Office. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. First of all, I'd like to let you know that the BLM conducted public scoping for this project from February 21st to March 22nd in 2023. BLM received a total of 18 scoping comments. The scoping process initiated the environmental review required by the National Environmental Policy Act. Comments provided during the public review period for the environmental assessment and regional mitigation strategy will be used to further enhance the analysis and environmental review of the proposed action and to refine the regional mitigation strategy. The presentation tonight is intended to inform you of the project details, such as the type of solar facility, location, size, timeline, and resource concerns identified during scoping. We will explain the NEPA process, or the National Environmental Policy Act process, what kind of information will be most helpful during this public review period. Before we begin with the presentation, I would like to introduce you to the speaker today, Laura Cobelt. Laura is a BLM project manager for the Dry Lake East Energy Center Solar Project, and she will be providing an overview presentation on the project, as well as the National Environmental Policy Act process and regional mitigation strategy that has been prepared. Laura is also joined by other BLM staff who are shown on the screen and will be working behind the scenes to help answer all of your questions later in the meeting. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to Sarah to go over tonight's meeting format.
Thank you, Bruce. Tonight's forum will provide opportunities for questions and public comment. There will be a question and answer session where written questions can be submitted. Then there will be an opportunity for verbal public comment. We'll have more information on these two opportunities later on. The BLM is also providing opportunity after the meeting for public comments and questions until February 19th, 2024. Comments and questions can be submitted via the Participate Now button on BLM's e-planning website, via email to the email address on screen, or via mail to the BLM Southern Nevada District Office. We will also provide this information in the chat for this forum. As mentioned on this slide, before including your address, phone number, email address, or other personal identifying information in your comment, you should be aware that your entire comment, including your personal identifying information, may be publicly available at any time. While you can ask that your personal identifying information be withheld from public review, BLM cannot guarantee that they'll be able to do so. Anonymity is not allowed for submissions from organizations or businesses and from individuals identifying themselves as representatives or officials of organizations or businesses. Now, Laura will present an overview on the Dry Lake East Energy Center solar project, as well as the BLM NEPA process and the regional mitigation strategy.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. On January 6, 2020, following a public involvement process, the BLM Las Vegas field office designated the Dry Lake East designated leasing area for future development of utility-scale photovoltaic solar energy generation and transmission. The Dry Lake East designated leasing area is located 10 miles northeast of Las Vegas on BLM land within the Southern Nevada District Las Vegas field office. The BLM conducted a competitive auction on May 20th, 2022 to identify a preferred applicant for photovoltaic solar development within the Dry Lake East designated leasing area. 13 bids were submitted, and Boulevard Associates LLC was determined the successful high bidder and the preferred right-of-way applicant. Boulevard Associates LLC has applied for rights-of-way for the construction, operation, and eventual decommissioning of a 200-megawatt photovoltaic solar facility with 200 megawatts of battery energy storage and a standalone 400-megawatt battery energy storage facility. The proposed project footprint is approximately 1,683 acres, consisting of 1,635 acres within the designated leasing area, and another 48 acres for access roads and the construction of a portion of the 230 kilovolt Gentie line, and then adding the Gentie line to existing transmission structures. The Gentie line will connect the on-site substation to the existing Harry Allen substation. BLM has developed an environmental assessment to analyze the effects of the proposed projects on resources within and adjacent to the project area, and a regional mitigation strategy. We're currently within a 30-day public comment period for the environmental assessment and regional mitigation strategy. If the project is approved, construction is anticipated to begin in 2025, with commercial operation of the project then commencing in 2026. This map shows the location of the proposed Dry Lake East Energy Center solar project in red in relation to the city of Las Vegas, located southwest of the project area. The project area is in a highly industrialized landscape with the Apex Industrial Complex, the Apex Regional Landfill, and the Dry Lake Solar Energy Zone, all surrounding the project area. The area was designated as the designated leasing area because the surrounding area is already very industrialized. The map on the screen shows the proposed Dry Lake East Energy Center solar project in the black dashed outline. The project is bounded on the west by Interstate 15 and on the east by the Union Pacific Railroad. The location of the Gentie line and the location of the Harry Allen substation are also shown on the map. The proposed project consists of solar photovoltaic arrays that would generate up to 200 megawatts of energy. The energy, when not in demand, would be stored in a 200 megawatt battery energy storage system associated with the solar project. In addition, the project includes a separate standalone 400 megawatt battery energy storage system, which would be capable of storing electricity from the grid during non-peak hours. The battery systems would then return power to the grid during peak hours. The project would have an on-site substation which steps up the voltage from the inverters to 230 kilovolts, suitable for connection to the utility grid. The on-site substation would connect to the Harry Allen substation via a Gentie line. Other project components include inverters, permanent security fencing, access roads, and a central computer system for monitoring and controlling the facility, above and below ground DC electrical cables, a below ground 34.5 kV collection wiring system, and a 10-acre laydown area. The solar project would be accessed from the Interstate 15 on an existing road. The most recent plan of development for the proposed project is available online at the project webpage, which we will provide a link for in the chat. Additional components of the proposed action include trimming vegetation no lower than 18 inches if needed, and limiting construction paths within the panel array blocks to every other row of panels to the degree practicable. East to west access paths would be used only one time in one pass during construction. An access management plan would be developed to delineate access paths within the solar field and travel between panel rows, except on designated access roads, is not anticipated during operations and maintenance, except in emergency circumstances. During the public scoping period in February and March of 2023, the BLM received 18 scoping comments, which identified a variety of resource concerns and recommendations for the proposed project. Scoping comments address the potential for historic resources, concerns about impacts to desert tortoise habitat and direct and indirect impacts to migratory birds and raptors, air quality concerns, issues around water use and water withdrawal, suggestions to maintain vegetation and biological soil crusts on site, and concerns about cumulative impacts from solar development in the area and in southern Nevada. Resource surveys and studies have been carried out to better understand the potential for resources to be present within the project area. A Class 3 Cultural Resources Inventory was conducted between October 2022 and June 2023. 43 cultural resources were recorded, and 6 of those resources were determined eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. 2 of the resources were non-contributing segments, and another site was unevaluated. The proposed project would result in direct impacts to 4 of the eligible sites. Adverse effects will be resolved through the development and implementation of a memorandum of agreement in consultation with the consulting parties in accordance with Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. The other 2 eligible and the 1 unevaluated site would be avoided during project construction and operations. Tortoise surveys of the area were conducted in 2019 prior to the designation of the Dry Lake East designated leasing area. 14 tortoises were located during surveys. Following Fish and Wildlife Service protocols for estimating tortoise densities, it is anticipated that there are 29 adult tortoises within the surveyed area. This is a density of 4.3 adult tortoises per square kilometer. To assist in the analysis of the federally threatened Mojave Desert tortoise, the BLM has coordinated with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and is required to complete Section 7 consultation in compliance with the Endangered Species Act. This would include receiving a biological opinion from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as a desert tortoise translocation plan. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Nevada Department of Wildlife are both cooperating agencies for the project. The Dry Lake Valley translocation area is the proposed recipient site for tortoises within the project area. Tortoise telemetry monitoring is ongoing, and additional health assessments are planned for spring 2024. Botanical surveys were conducted between September 2022 and July 2023. No sensitive plant species were found within the project area. Water resources surveys were completed in the summer of 2022. A viewshed analysis for visual resources and for National Historic Trails was completed in winter 2022. Fieldwork was completed for visual resources, but no fieldwork was required for National Historic Trails, as the proposed project was determined to be not visible from the Old Spanish Trail. An environmental assessment has been prepared to disclose and analyze the environmental effects of the proposed project. The environmental assessment analyzes a number of resources, including air quality, climate change, cultural resources, fuels and fire risk, soils, vegetation, water resources, and threatened, endangered, and sensitive species. The environmental assessment tiers to the existing environmental analysis completed for the designation of the Dry Lake designated leasing area. The 2012 Western Solar Plan directed that a regional mitigation strategy would be developed for all solar energy zones, now known as designated leasing areas. The regional mitigation strategy for the Dry Lake East Energy Center project has been developed concurrently with the environmental review process to more accurately account for the project-specific residual impacts, and because both the environmental assessment and regional mitigation strategy will tier to existing analysis that has been done for the designated leasing area and the larger regional mitigation strategy developed for the Dry Lake Solar Energy Zone. The regional mitigation strategy includes identification of mitigation goals and objectives, as well as the selection of mitigation actions based on the degree of impact and regional conditions and trends. The regional mitigation strategy within the environmental assessment evaluates mitigation strategies and a recipient site for mitigation funds for unavoidable impacts to resources. A regional mitigation strategy has been developed to compensate for unavoidable impacts to resources as a result of the proposed project. The regional mitigation strategy is available for review concurrently with the environmental assessment. The regional mitigation strategy includes a formula for how fees would be calculated, and those fees would be collected per acre of disturbance. The regional mitigation strategy for the Dry Lake Solar Energy Zone was updated for the regional mitigation strategy for the Dry Lake East designated leasing area to account for the reduction in residual impacts due to some vegetation being retained within the panel arrays. There is a fee discount for acres retaining vegetation, as retaining vegetation reduces residual impacts and avoids some impacts associated with grading the site. Funds would be deposited with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, which would oversee the utilization of the funds for off-site mitigation. The recipient area for the funds is the Coyote Springs Area of Critical Environmental Concern, which is close to the project area and has been impacted by the industrialization of the surrounding area. On this slide is a list of the cooperating agencies for this project. Their assistance was instrumental in helping to develop the environmental assessment and regional mitigation strategy. The flowchart on the screen shows the NEPA process. We are currently in the public comment period, which closes on February 19th, 2024. Once the public comment period closes, BLM would develop a report capturing and summarizing all comments on the environmental assessment. This report will assist BLM in refining the environmental analysis as appropriate. The BLM authorized officer will then consider the analysis and determine if the project will result in any significant impacts. If no significant impacts will occur, the authorized officer will approve the finding of no significant impact and then approve a decision record documenting the agency's decision to approve the project and any mitigation measures to be required. Helpful comments from you would include information that may enhance the analysis and environmental review of the proposed action. Comments that provide feedback about the proposed mitigation and the regional mitigation strategy would also be helpful. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Sarah, who will begin the question and answer session.
Thanks, Laura. That concludes our presentation. We will now have a question and answer session on the Dry Lake East Energy Center solar project. Questions can be submitted using the Q&A box by following the instructions on the slide. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A feature to submit questions. Please understand that some questions will be answered live during this question and answer session, while some may be answered in writing in the question and answer feature. Anyone can see all the questions answered by clicking on the Q&A button. As questions begin to come in, I will facilitate asking the questions as the project manager, Laura Cobelt, will answer them. And Laura, we do have our first question. So from Judy, please repeat the location for the proposed translocation site for the tortoise and who manages this mitigation site.
The BLM Fish and Wildlife Service determined that the Dry Lake Valley translocation area is the proposed recipient site for the tortoises from the Dry Lake East Solar Project. This area is managed by the BLM.
Thanks, Laura. And while we are waiting for more questions to come in, I just wanted to remind everyone that the comment period is open through February 19th. After this meeting, you will be able to provide comments in writing to the BLM via email or mail. As a reminder, the mail address as well as the email are in the chat. I know we have one person on the phone, so I'm going to read that mail to and that email address. So get a pen ready if you need one. Our mail to address is BLM Southern Nevada District Office. That's Attention Dry Lake East Solar Project. And our address is 4701 North Torrey TORREY Pines, PINES Drive. And that's Las Vegas, Nevada, 89130. And our email is BLM_NV_projects@blm.gov. And again, thank you for your patience as we wait for some more questions to come in. Okay, so while we were sorting out questions, we did receive some questions during the meeting registration process. This question is, how was the DLA area determined? Were areas surveyed on the ground? What was the level of detail of analysis?
The DLA was designated because of its location in a heavily industrialized area. The DLA is directly across the Interstate 15 from the solar energy zone and just north of the Apex Regional Landfill. The Dry Lake East Valley is further constricted by the railroad, which runs along the east side of the DLA, and a mountain range east of the railroad. More information on surveys and analysis for the designation of the DLA can be found at the e-planning site that was shared in the chat earlier.
Thanks, Laura. We do have another question. Will the site be surrounded by a permeable fence, allowing tortoises to come and go?
The proposed fencing for the project will exclude tortoises while being permeable to allow other wildlife to continue to access the project site.
And again, thank you for your patience, folks, as we are answering some questions on the back end. We do have another question. Please tell us where the water will come from for the project and after the project is completed.
Boulevard Associates LLC has stated in their plan of development that the source of construction and operations phase water for the proposed project would be water purchased from the Southern Nevada Water Authority and would be trucked or piped into the project site where it would be stored in an on-site water storage tank. The project does not propose drilling any new water wells. The Nevada Division of Water Resources is responsible for the allocation of water resources within the state of Nevada.
Thanks, Laura. Again, just a reminder to all you folks that the public comment period is open until February 19th, 2024. Comments can be submitted on BLM's e-planning website. That's already in the chat, via email or via mail to the BLM Southern Nevada District Office. And again, that email address and mailing address is already in the chat. And then another reminder for folks, we can submit a question by following the information on the screen. You click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, you type your question, and then we will be able to answer them live during this session. And for our friend on the phone, I just wanted to read the address for the e-planning page. So that's going to be https semicolon // EPLANNING.BLM.gov /EPLANNING -UI PROJECT /2023193 /510. Again, thank you for your patience. And we are getting to these 6 questions that are in the queue. We do see them. Laura, we are ready for another question. This is from the registration. Why is BLM not considering rooftop solar instead of these large-scale solar projects that damage the desert?
The BLM is required by law to respond to applications filed on BLM managed lands and has no authority or influence over the installation of distributed generation systems or rooftop solar. The policies and legal basis for distributed generation are administered and regulated by the Public Utility Commission of Nevada under Nevada state law.
Thanks, Laura. We do have another question. Could you describe the cultural resources affected and what their treatment might be?
Cultural resources on site consist of historic sites associated with the construction of the railroad. Adverse effects to the cultural resources will be resolved through the development and implementation of a memorandum of agreement in consultation with the consulting parties in accordance with Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act.
Thanks, Laura. Another question. Are there any tortoises in the translocation site? What will be the effect of introduction of the new tortoises?
There are tortoises in the translocation site, but the density is low at the site. BLM and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service expects the interaction of tortoises to be minimal, but there will be some interaction. USGS is currently tracking tortoises at the translocation site and will be able to determine the interactions after the translocation.
Thanks, Laura. I just wanted to provide everyone a reminder. So now if you could look on the screen, just some further information with providing comments after the meeting. So we do have our e-planning website. There's that participate now button. At that listed web address, we have the ability to send questions and input via email as well as via mail. Laura, we have another question. What is the name of the mountain range for the project?
I'm sorry, we do not have this information available right now, but we can follow up with you with this information.
Great, thank you, Laura. Again, thank you all for your patience as we work to address the questions that are in the queue. We are working towards them. Thanks. We do have another question that was previously submitted from registration. Where will the energy go and who is it sold to?
The power will be sold in Nevada via NV Energy's transmission system.
Thank you, Laura.
Hi, everyone. We do have an update to the question about the mountain range that's located just east of the project area. That is called the Dry Lake Range. Thank you.
Okay, another question. How much electricity could the site generate, and can you give an estimate?
Yes, the site can generate up to 200 megawatts of electricity.
Thank you all again for your participation. We're working through some questions that are still in the queue. Appreciate your patience. Another question, Laura. If tortoises are excluded, all the habitat become available. That being the case, shouldn't the proponent be compensating for all land within the fence, including areas that are not bladed?
So tortoise fees for the entire site will be assessed under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act. The regional mitigation strategy is in place to compensate for the other resources on the site.
Okay, Laura, we have a question from Joyce. What is the number name of the district the water will come from?
The specific water source where SNWA would procure the water for the project is not known at this time.
Once again, thank you all for your patience as we work to answer all of your questions. Just wanted to have this slide up again if you wanted to understand again how to comment. And yeah, thanks again for your patience, and your participation's amazing. So really appreciate that. Another question, Laura. What is the relationship between this project and the 1998 Las Vegas RMP? Is BLM planning to revise the Las Vegas RMP, which fails to address current conditions, particularly extensive solar development in southern Nevada and the drastic declines in tortoises?
The project is subject to the Las Vegas Resource Management Plan as it was amended by the 2012 Western Solar Plan PEIS and the 2020 DLA Environmental Assessment. The site was designated as a preferred location for utility-scale solar energy development in accordance with the Solar PEIS.
We have a question from Ed. Will all displaced tortoises be monitored with radio telemetry or only a subset of them? And for how long will they be tracked?
All of the translocated tortoises will be tracked for a minimum of 1 year.
Here's another question, Laura. Since the consultants found 14 tortoises and the tortoise is federally listed, would that not trigger a significance determination? Please explain why a mitigated negative declaration is not anticipated instead of a FONSI.
A mitigated negative declaration is a determination that can be made for proposed projects in California under California state law, the California Environmental Quality Act. For NEPA, in accordance with federal regulations 40 CFR 1501.6C, a finding of no significant impact or FONSI can be made if mitigation measures will be applied to the project that reduce potential impacts below significance.
Thanks, Laura. Again, thank you all for your participation and for your patience as we're just still waiting to get some answers in for your questions. We have another question from Judy. Section 7 consultation cannot require mitigation, only minimization of the impacts of the taking. Will BLM require mitigation for the tortoise, such as compensation?
The BLM will assess tortoise fees for this project.
Thank you still attendees that have been providing us with some questions, and thank you for your patience. If you're just joining us, you can submit your questions via the Q&A function and follow the screen to do so. Okay, Laura, we have a question from Spencer. For the 400 MWBSS, where will the charge come from? Dry Lake East or from outside the boundary?
For the 400 megawatt battery energy storage system, the charge will come from outside of the project boundary.
We're still working on answering your questions verbally, but we will move on to our comment session of tonight, no later than 7 o'clock local time. Thank you. We have another question from Joyce. Tortoises have a very long life. How can you only track them for 1 year since this project is most likely 30 years with, I'm sure, a renewable lease for the project?
To clarify, the tortoises will be tracked for a minimum of 1 year by the project. The BLM is working with the USGS to track these animals for a longer period of time beyond the 1 year minimum.
We have a question from Judy. What is the current mitigation fee?
The current tortoise fee is currently $1,067. Each year, this amount adjusts based on inflation, and the increase will go into effect in March. We are waiting for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to send the updated amount currently. And apologies, just to clarify for the last question, the $1,067 is a per acre fee.
Thank you all for your questions. That's going to conclude our question and answer session. A reminder, you can still submit your questions to the BLM, so that's via email or mail, and both of those addresses are already in the chat. Also for tonight, you can continue to submit your questions. We just will not be answering them live. They will be answered in the Q&A feature. So we are now going to transition onto the verbal comment session. Again, we will not be answering any more questions live. If you have any additional questions, you may continue to drop them into the Q&A box and we will respond in writing, or you can email or mail any remaining questions to the BLM. Again, just a reminder, anyone can see all the questions answered by clicking on the Q&A button. We're going to take verbal comments following the order in which people pre-registered and said yes or maybe to wanting to provide public comments. Please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen, and I, the facilitator, will open your microphone. I don't believe we have any folks on the phone, but if you are, you can raise your hand with *9 and then unmute and mute using *6. On our next slide, we're going to see a 2-minute timer. This will display the amount of time you have for your public comment. We are reserving 2 minutes per public comment. Your comment will be included in the project public record, so please prepare your comments accordingly. After going through the list of people who have pre-registered to speak, we'll move on to anyone who may want to provide comment that did not identify that they wanted to provide a comment when they registered. And please, folks, say and then spell your name before you begin speaking and leaving your public comment. BLM wants to hear from all the members of the public. However, out of respect for everyone's participation and comment, we do ask that you follow these guidelines on the screen. Please stay within your allotted time. We ask that you watch this and be cognizant of when your time is almost up and wrap up your comment. Please be respectful of others that are speaking. Please refrain from profanity. And again, just a reminder, you are welcome to deliver more than one comment during tonight's meeting. We just want to keep it within that 2-minute time frame, which this timer will show on the screen. And another reminder, please say, then spell your name before you begin speaking. And apologies in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. Joyce Berishman, you will be our first speaker. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and you will have 2 minutes to provide us with your comment. Carl Van Warmerdam will hear from you next. So Joyce, I see your hand is raised. So we're gonna unmute your microphone so you may say and spell your name and then provide your public comment.
Joyce Barishman, Joyce Barishman. I'm a little bit unhappy with the BLM because the BLM is supposed to protect the people. This is the people's land. And the BLM has come across with so many projects, not just the one we're talking about tonight, but projects that are in people's backyards where they live. And this is unacceptable to have projects like these where people are living. And I don't understand how these projects can take place. People can put solar on their house if they want it, and that would be fine. But to take all the people's land and to use it for these projects that go bankrupt over time and use water and put chemicals in the ground and kill tortoises, I just don't understand how this can take place. You're supposed to protect the people and you're not doing it. And I just don't understand. And I don't know that I really have more to say to keep going on about this. I don't think it's right what the BLM is doing. And these projects should not all be approved. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Joyce. Carl, you're up next. If you could please use the raise hand function, I'll be able to unmute your microphone. Again, please say and then spell your name. And whenever you're ready,
Okay.
Carl.
I'm sorry. Carl Van Warmerdam. CarlVan Warmerdam. So I would hope that BLM would choose a no action alternative. There's a number of issues wrong. Even in the presentation, you were saying that the funds from this project are going to go to another area that's by an industrial park or an industrialized area that you're trying to repair. So here you are destroying habitat that has tortoises on it to repair habitat that does not have any tortoises. So you're going to be destroying habitat, and this success rate is very bad. You just can't transport tortoises into another tortoise's habitat. It's already filled. So you're just that's pretty much a die-off there for them. So I don't really like it. I don't like the word renewable either. These projects are rebuildable. They're not renewable, and they should be called that. That's just a greenwashing to call them renewable. So yeah, you're going to enclose the comments for the people. I wish you wouldn't do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. We do appreciate your comment. William Spielberg, you are next. Please raise your hand. We will unmute your microphone so you may say and spell your name. I'll start the timer and you can provide your public comment for 2 minutes. And whenever you're ready, William.
Good evening. William Spielberg, William Spielberg, Spielberg. I would just like to take a moment to let everybody know that the Dry Lake East Energy Center I am in support of. It will create many jobs that are going to pay good wages and provide health care and pensions for the people that work there. In return, it will also be an investment for the city and the state of Nevada. And with that, I would like to thank everybody, and I will end my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, William. We appreciate your comment. Simone, you are next. I'm not seeing you on the participants list. So if she hops on, we'll circle back. Ed, you are up next now. So if you could please raise your hand, I'll unmute your microphone so you can say and spell your name. I'll then start the timer and you can provide your public comment. And whenever you're ready, Ed.
Yeah, my name is Ed LaRue. It's ED-LA capital RUE, representing the Desert Tortoise Council. And I just wanted to, I've already put comments in the question, but I just wanted to point out that the main reason permeable fences are put around solar sites is to allow tortoises to come and go. And so by putting an impermeable fence around the site, it's really undermining the whole purpose of allowing, just to mow the vegetation as opposed to blade it off. So my concern is that I think I heard in your presentation that the proponent would only be compensating for X number of acres that are actually mowed within that fenced area. But I would point out to you that all acreage within the fenced area becomes unavailable to tortoises. And because the compensation fees are intended to mitigate for impact or compensate for impact to tortoises, then you should not be subtracting those areas that are not bladed. The entire fenced area no longer is available to tortoises. So please be aware of that. The other thing, we'd like to be sure that the EA does, because a lot of the stuff coming, particularly out of Southern Nevada, is not doing a really good job with its cumulative effects analysis. We'd like to see a map that shows how much solar development has occurred in Southern Nevada, how many tortoises have been displaced from those sites, and how many acres are currently lost as a result of solar development. So please be sure that all of that's in there. And finally, I'd like the BLM to consider how this project may be affected by the updated 2012 solar PEIS. My understanding is that the BLM is looking at revising that plan, and that may have an effect on this project. So please be sure that you explain that in the draft EA. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. We do appreciate your comment. Judy, you are next. Please raise your hand and we will unmute your microphone so you may say and spell your name. I'll start the timer and you can provide your public comment.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Thanks,
Okay,
Jen.
I did not intend to provide a comment. I did not have my hand raised before.
Okay, that's okay. I can unmute, or I can mute you.
Thank you.
Yep. That is everyone, who signed up to comment. So if you would like to comment or make a second comment, please, again, click that raise hand button at the bottom of the screen. And like we've been doing, I'm gonna call on you. You'll be able to unmute. We are gonna go in the order that you raise your hand, so please prepare accordingly. Again, I don't believe we have anyone joining us via phone, but if you are, dial *9 to let us know that you'd like to comment. So whenever anyone would like to provide an additional comment, again, you may provide a second one. Please utilize that raise hand function so that we know you're ready to provide your public comment. I'm seeing, Ed, that you have your hand raised. So in just a second, I'm gonna allow you to unmute. I think we'd still like you to say and spell your name before you provide your comment. Whenever you're ready, Ed.
Thank you, Ed LaRue. It's ED, LA capital RUE. And I believe I understood in your presentation that the tortoises would be translocated to the Dry Lake Valley translocation area. But there's no indication as how far away that is from the the proposed project site. So please be sure in the EA that that you show those kind of things, and also any surveys. I mean, you said that in 2019 surveys were done within the project footprint area, but have there been those level of tortoise surveys done within the translocation area? So please be sure that the EA talks about that. I understand that you're monitoring, or that USGS is monitoring tortoises over in the translocation area, but we'd also like to see presence, absence, or other type surveys that tell us how many tortoises are in that area before any more tortoises are displaced into it. The other question, or a statement I'd like to say that hopefully the EA will address is, since BLM is a multiple use entity, please explain to us how the translocation area would be protected in perpetuity. Will there be a conservation easement on it? Will it receive some kind of a BLM designation that would protect those translocated tortoises? And please, certainly it goes along with all of this that we need to know the acreage of the area where these tortoises will be translocated, the acreage of any kind of conservation easements or any other restrictions BLM's allowed to have there, like will you allow mining, for example, or grazing or off-road recreation, because tortoises displaced into those areas tend to wander around quite a bit till they settle in. And if there's unrestricted recreational vehicle play in those areas, then that could be a real problem. So just please make sure that the EA describes all the current uses and the protections of that translocation area as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Ed. I just wanted to provide a reminder that we will be here until 8 o'clock. So we will be able to answer your questions in writing until then as well. And we are still taking public comments at the moment, so if anything else comes up, please utilize that raise hand function, and I'll allow you to unmute your microphone. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Carl, I see your hand is raised. In just a second, I'm going to unmute your mic, and you'll be able to provide your public comment.
Carl Van Warmerdam, CarlVanWarmerdam. And it was, I had put this question in the chat, but the agency, it's in terms of accounting for the greenhouse gases of any project, so to capture the full cost of the greenhouse gas emissions as actually as possible, they should include taking global damage into account. And that global damage would take into account what the price of producing these panels were. And I see there is an exception that's it, so that the applicant doesn't need to put those costs in if there were qualitative considerations. And those considerations should be written in the EA. You know, why should this project be approved if it isn't in fact going to mitigate climate change, which is what its purpose is. And it will not if you take into account the ecological damage that is caused by the creation, the mining, transport of these panels made in China. All those factored in. So I'd like to know why that isn't included in this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. We do appreciate your comment. We do have time for one last comment. Again, please raise your hand. I'll unmute your microphone. Sorry, everyone. I actually wanted to clarify. We will be taking comments until 8 local time. So take some time. If you need to prepare your comment, we will be here. You may also continue to utilize the question and answer function, and we will continue to type questions in there. Thank you.